Guys, yo, I'm not even gonna do no funny shit. David is facing the death penalty by the internet anarchist. Bro, when was the last time someone was given the death penalty? Like, if we're being honest, let me search that up. When was the last time? You know how fucked up of a nigga you gotta be for people to bring back something that's not even there. Well, not that wasn't. When was the last? When was the last time someone was given the death penalty? Exactly. Hold on, what the fuck? The last execution in the United June 25th, 2026. Oh, hold on, they still doing? God damn. Oh shit. Wait. Is this correct? It is. Oh my god, it is actually 2026. That's crazy. I thought it was in the 2000s. Oh my. Okay, let me search LA because I think he's being convicted in LA. That would make more sense. Cause this nigga they're saying he got done in Florida, if I, excuse me if I'm not mistaken. Or so I should say in LA or in California. 2006. 2006. And 10 years later, 20 years, 2 decades later, my nigga, this dirty monster motherfucker right here might get it. He might get packed up. And I'm glad he might get packed up.
The criminal story of David is one that has dominated mainstream headlines for almost a year now. It was almost impossible to not at least hear a little about what had happened, starting out as a horrifying mystery.
My mom even knew about this.
When
she didn't know the name, but she knew of the story.
Police found the dismembered body of Celeste Hernandez, and quickly becoming a disturbing case study into the depths of human depravity as more information about the alleged perpetrator, David, came to light. Even if you don't know any details about this case, you have probably heard this general information through cultural osmosis. Many don't know how crazy the story has gotten as it's developed these past months. So today, we're going to be covering the full timeline of the David files, starting from the night of the murder and ending it with what we know in the present day. Quick disclaimer, this is one of the most disturbing topics I've...
YouTube, read that. Not me. YouTube, you see that? That's not me. I'm reacting. Thank you very much. It's all right here. YouTube, I would have put it myself. But the nigga that I'm reacting to already did it.
Ever covered, so viewer discretion is advised. With that being said, hi, I'm the Internet Anarchist, and today we're looking into the David files. On the evening of September 8th, 2025, David was in the middle of performing for a packed crowd, while at the exact same time, police officers in Los Angeles were being called to investigate a foul smell coming from an abandoned Tesla Model X that had been sitting in the heat for days. The vehicle had already been towed to an impound yard after neighbors complained about it being left outside for an unusually long period of time, and by the time officers finally searched it,
You know what's terrifying? It's how much even I was like, bro, I remember when it first happened. I remember vividly. I remember when it was happening. Like, I remember when the news came out that, found, a Celeste's body in this nigga's car. I remember I was like, damn, someone someone did this. Someone stole his car and did horrifying, did what they did to Celeste. and use David's car as a getaway to probably get rid of them. That was on my. I would, bro, never in a million years on that day in September 2025. Bro, in a million, if somebody told me David did that shit, I would never believe it. I would have never. But as time went on, I was like, hell no, pack him up. And it's exactly like the name on her his name on her finger tattoo. That's the giveaway. That is literally the giveaway. And then you start niggas fucking sick videos and shit, man.
Smell had become impossible to ignore. When they opened the front trunk, they found plastic bags containing dismembered human remains. The body had decomposed so severely that identification was difficult at first, but investigators were eventually able to determine that the victim was a teenage girl. She stood around 5'2" and weighed only 71 pounds. Considering how little remained and the state the body was found in, the condition shocked even experienced investigators. Before long, police identified the remains as belonging to Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a girl who had been missing for roughly 17 months. Then came...
Bro, 13 years old. Date of birth 2010. Nah. Bro, I'm telling you, bro, this nigga, yo, if you support David, you're like even listening to his music, you are sick in the fucking head. Sick in the head. After all the shit that they brought out about this nigga, and you telling me you still mess with him, you even like you search up David, not to know about court cases, to listen to his music. You're a fucking weirdo. You're a fucking weirdo. I swear to God. 13. Pack him up, bro. I'm telling you, this is
the detail that changed the entire case from a disturbing homicide into one of the most infamous internet crime stories in recent memory. The Tesla belonged to indie artist David. At a first glance, David seemed like the last person anyone would associate with a crime this horrific. He had no criminal history, came from a financially stable family, and built his reputation online as a quiet former Fortnite player who turned into a bedroom pop artist almost overnight. And here's the detail that really sticks with people. The day Celeste's body was found, David was on stage, while police in LA were pulling bags out of the trunk.
Exactly, bro. That's, oh my... Yo, he's so right. Because he was... I remember even, is it Jason the Wayne? He was like, if he was really him, he wouldn't be performing. Because, you know, no human it would really like have the mental... like a mindset like to do something like that. But little did we know this sick motherfucker was capable of that shit.
Of his Tesla, he was at a venue in Minneapolis headlining a packed show on the Withered tour, and he wasn't some nervous wreck up there. By every account, he was having the time of his life, hyping up the crowd, even tossing Labubu dolls out into the audience, telling them not to fight over it, and that it wasn't the last thing he was going to throw out. He didn't mention a word of it. He went on and performed again the very next night. From the outside looking in, it looked like business as usual for a rising pop star. Nobody in that crowd had any idea what had been found just 2,000 miles away. But within hours of the discovery, people began digging through years of his music, deleted social media posts, Discord messages, archived live streams, interviews, and music videos. As more information surfaced, a horrifying narrative started forming. It began to look less like David had randomly become connected to a murder investigation, and more like he had spent years openly foreshadowing exactly what he was eventually accused of doing. While Celeste's body was sitting in the trunk of that Tesla, David wasn't hiding. He was on stage. He was in the middle of his first big headline run with the Withered World Tour, named after his debut album, a record he'd described as a goodbye letter to himself. And the staging of that tour is something people really only went back and studied after the fact. fans walking into the venue were greeted by a coffin. There was a funeral wreath, white roses lining the stage, a portrait of David wrapped up in gauze representing a tormented alter ego he called Itami, and a guest book where the crowd was invited to write letters to the dead. At the time, fans read it as a moody, on-brand horror aesthetic. After September, a lot of people couldn't unsee what it actually looked like. And for a while, officially, nothing happened to him. Police hadn't named a suspect, no charges had been filed, and David was technically still a free man with a career. But the walls started closing in fast. Within days of Celeste being identified, Crocs and Hollister pulled him from a campaign he had been the face of just days earlier. Then, the shows began disappearing. First Seattle, then San Francisco and LA, then the entire European leg. Every date from Norway to Poland was wiped out and replaced with a note blaming unforeseen circumstances. His label suspended promotion of the album, scrapped the deluxe release, and pulled the tour merch. And before long, he'd been quietly dropped altogether. The album rollout, the funeral tour, all of it just stopped. And David himself went almost completely silent and dropped off the grid. To understand how the situation escalated into murder, investigators and internet sleuths started tracing the timeline all the way back to 2021. In December 2021, he released one of his first songs online, and even from the very
If they were talking 2021, Celeste was 14 when she unfortunately died. 2021. She died 2025. So you're telling me that she was 11, if I'm not mistaken, when she was 11. 11. Think about that. 11. That's when they start talking. 11. Or is it 10? Wait, let me see. 10, 20, 10, 25, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10. Yeah, 11 or 10. Yeah.
very beginning, the themes in his music were unusually dark and strangely specific. His lyrics revolved around obsession, abandonment, jealousy, emotional dependency, and violence towards romantic partners. The speaker in these songs constantly feared being left behind and reacted to rejection with rage. At first, nobody cared, because dark emotional lyrics are common in alternative music, especially among artists influenced by internet rap and emo scenes. But after Celeste's body was found, people started revisiting these songs with entirely different eyes. Lyrics that once sounded edgy suddenly sounded disturbingly literal. One song included the line, "I think we both know who dies here." Another repeatedly referenced keeping someone from leaving. Others mentioned killing slowly, dying together, and becoming violent over betrayal. Then, there was one specific lyric that stood out above almost anything else. In a song released while Celeste was only 11 years old, David said, "Save your tears, 7 years."
So she was 10. Okay.
7 years later, Celeste would have turned 18. Investigators would later allege that David first met Celeste would have turned 18. Investigators would later...
What did he say?
7
Save your tears. 7 years. Oh my.
years later, Celeste would have turned 18. Investigators would later allege that David first met Celeste in early 2022 through Fortnite and Discord, when she was still a child and he was already close to adulthood. According to court records, detectives ultimately concluded the two first connected in January of 2022. Around the same time, Celeste's Discord account was reportedly created, which would have made her around 11 years old. As David's music career slowly gained traction online, his relationship with Celeste allegedly became deeper and more controlling behind the scenes. Former friends and Discord users later described how David surrounded himself with extremely young fans and frequently interacted with underage girls in private servers. Multiple people who knew him during this period claimed his behavior towards minors was not exactly a secret. One former Fortnite teammate later said everyone in their gaming group knew about Celeste, and that David would casually joke about it whenever people brought her up. One of the biggest turning points in his career came with the release of Romantic Homicide, the song that launched him from being a niche internet artist into mainstream success. The music video showed David standing blindfolded among candles near what appeared to be a dead girl, while imagery throughout the video implied a body being hidden away inside luggage. The video was uploaded on September 7th, Celeste's birthday. At the time, fans viewed all of this as stylized horror aesthetics, but in retrospect, it became one of the most heavily scrutinized parts of the entire case. People started noticing how often David's songs referenced killing women he loved, preserving relationships through death, and becoming enraged whenever a girl wanted independence or tried to leave him. As David became more successful, he also became more reckless. By 2023, he was openly bringing Celeste into live streams and online content. In some streams, she could be seen in the background while fans asked who she was. Whenever viewers pressed him too hard, David either deflected or became aggressive. At one point, after a live stream involving jokes about age and controversy, David panicked and repeatedly demanded moderators to delete everything immediately, yelling that all VODs needed to disappear.
Where's your media
I personally don't.
Yo, I media trained you.
No, you didn't.
That's controversial.
It's controversial of kids.
Really good.
Okay,
It's been a good one. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Delete everything. Everything goes. Everything goes. Everything.
Meanwhile, outside David's online communities, Celeste's family was desperately trying to find her. In February 2024, relatives began posting missing person alerts online stating that 13-year-old Celeste had disappeared from Lake Elsinore, California. Her aunt and mother both posted publicly asking for help locating her. Police later discovered that one of the last people Celeste contacted before vanishing was David. When investigators reached out to him, he answered the phone and claimed he barely knew her, insisting he had only met her once and did not realize she was underage. That explanation immediately started falling apart. According to court documents, David also showed police a yearbook picture of Celeste during the interaction, something prosecutors later argued directly contradicted his claims about not knowing her age. Detectives reportedly visited his home for a welfare check, but were unable to gather enough evidence at the time to arrest him or remove Celeste from the situation. Only days later, Celeste returned home, but prosecutors now allege David continued almost immediately afterward. Court filings later claimed that after her parents confiscated her phone, David drove to Lake Elsinore and paid another middle school student around $1,000 to secretly provide Celeste with a replacement phone so they could continue communicating. And despite all of this, David's career was exploding at the exact same time. Speaking of legal matters, you may be entitled to a potential...
Get your money, bro.
The message as ever.
Oh shit! Now I skipped. My bad. I thought I saw.
To pay mental health struggle for the harm.
Get your money, bro.
By 2025, he had become a global artist with collaborations tied to Fortnite, mainstream television placements, and appearances with some of the largest streamers on the internet. Songs were appearing in major shows, and huge creators were collaborating with him. To most fans, he still looked like a shy, awkward musician who wrote emotional love songs. But beneath the surface, prosecutors say the relationship with Celeste was becoming increasingly volatile and dangerous. Court filings reportedly describe escalating arguments involving jealousy, infidelity, and Celeste becoming increasingly unhappy with the relationship. In one text message cited by prosecutors, Celeste allegedly told David, "All we do is have and hang out. Man, I want more than that for myself."
A 13-year-old. A minor at the time saying that. She said, I want more to myself, bro. Bro, that's sad. Bro, bro, the reason I really want this nigga to get, and I don't care, YouTube, you can fucking do whatever, bro. David should face the death penalty. If I get banned, I don't care. Nigga, imagine if that's your little sister, bro. Or your daughter. Or like, no, he needs to get packed up. I don't care. He needs to face the death penalty. I don't care.
Investigators interpreted the message as evidence that she had begun resisting the fantasy and control prosecutors claim David had spent years constructing around her. The prosecution argues that tensions escalated dramatically in April 2025 after Celeste allegedly threatened to expose their relationship publicly. According to investigators, this threat arrived at an especially dangerous moment for David because his debut album and major endorsement opportunities were about to launch, meaning public exposure of an illegal relationship with a minor could potentially destroy both his career and financial future overnight. Prosecutors later cited this as evidence of financial motive connected to the murder charge. According to the timeline laid out by investigators, David allegedly sent an Uber to pick up Celeste from her family home on April 23, 2025. Records reportedly show she arrived at his residence around 10:10 p.m. Roughly 20 minutes later, David began sending text messages asking where she was, despite prosecutors alleging she had already arrived. Authorities believe those messages were staged in advance to create a false narrative suggesting Celeste never actually reached the property. From there, investigators claim David stabbed Celeste multiple times, including wounds to the chest and abdomen that later caused fatal blood loss. Authorities further allege that after committing the crime, David drove through Santa Barbara to dispose of evidence before purchasing supplies used to dismember the body. Those purchases included chainsaws, a shovel, heavy-duty bags, a body bag, and a blue inflatable pool, supposedly intended to contain blood, while dismemberment occurred inside his garage. Ironically, prosecutors argue that the very method David allegedly used to avoid leaving evidence instead created enormous amounts of forensic evidence. According to investigators, using chainsaws caused blood and biological material to spread widely throughout the garage, while also shredding the inflatable pool itself. Small blue plastic fragments consistent with the destroyed pool were reportedly later recovered alongside Celeste's remains. Even worse for the defense, authorities allegedly discovered the damaged pool still sitting at the property months later when police searched the residence after the body was found. The sheer carelessness investigators described throughout the entire alleged cleanup has led many observers to speculate about David's mental state during the crime and aftermath. Prosecutors claim he never properly disposed of the remains, never thoroughly cleaned the garage, never removed crucial forensic evidence, and continued driving the Tesla while the body remained stored inside the vehicle's front trunk alongside air fresheners meant to mask the decomposition odors. He eventually abandoned the vehicle entirely rather than destroying it. Even more bizarrely, court filings reportedly state that David retained possession of numerous incriminating digital files. Investigators allegedly recovered explicit images and videos involving Celeste from iCloud storage and other devices, including content prosecutors claim depicts activity when she was only 30 years old. Authorities reportedly seized approximately 40 terabytes of data connected to the investigation.
Okay, 40 terabytes of data. Okay. 40 terabytes of data worth of evidence of CP. And you telling me this nigga she just go to jail and have a chance to get out? Nah. 40 terabytes. 40 terabytes. Not even gig. Terabytes. I want you to think of a game. A game. That's 100 gig. You know how big that game is. 100 gig. Just imagine. Okay. Let's talk about a PC, 200 terabytes. You know how much 200 terabytes is? You know that's huge. 200 terabytes. 200 terabytes. Think about that. 200 terabytes. 200 terabytes. If I'm not mistaken, that's like That's like 2 million gig. I don't know. If I'm not mistaken, because he can 200,000 gig, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. 2000, but this nigga had 40 terabytes worth of evidence. Pack him up.
Whether all of that material exclusively involved Celeste or included other victims has not yet been fully clarified publicly. The autopsy findings only intensified the public horror surrounding the case.
This nigga was playing it in our faces. He was dead ass like saying, "Yeah, I can do whatever the fuck I want." No, you literally heard, bro. He didn't even do a thorough cleaning. This nigga was rich. He could have literally, and I'm not even like condoning this, but he could have at least, and I'm not even condoning this, by the way. He could have got cleaners to clean up everything, forensic and whatevers. No, he didn't. He did this shit on purpose, driving the Tesla with some, oh my God, bro, and you telling me he fucking deserves to go to jail? Not, nigga, pack him up. I swear to
Medical
God.
examiners reportedly concluded that Celeste died from stab wounds causing catastrophic blood loss. Her remains showed evidence of dismemberment, and 2 fingers were missing entirely, her left ring finger and her pinky. Internet users quickly linked that detail to a tattoo bearing David's name on her ring finger, leading prosecutors to suggest he intentionally removed identifying features connected to himself. She also had a matching tattoo on her right index finger saying "shh" that matches with the one David has. Toxicology results added another layer of disturbing speculation. While many substances tested negative, preliminary screens reportedly turned presumptive positives for MDMA, methamphetamine, and benzodiazepines. Experts cautioned that decomposition can complicate toxicology interpretation significantly, especially because post-mortem fermentation can naturally produce ethanol inside the body. Still, some observers speculated that Celeste may have been drugged before the attack, though no definitive public conclusion has yet confirmed that theory. As prosecutors continued building their case, investigators also began examining the role of people surrounding David. Private investigators publicly suggested he believed someone may have assisted with moving or dismembering the body, arguing that it would have been extremely difficult for one person to handle alone. He also alleged that some individuals close to David may have received money in exchange for silence or cooperation, though those claims remain unproven publicly at this stage. Meanwhile, additional scrutiny fell on David's management team and professional associates after reports emerged that warnings about his relationship with Celeste had allegedly been sent directly to people working around him. According to private investigators, an email warning management that David might be connected to a missing 13-year-old was forwarded internally, rather than immediately reported to law enforcement. Although simply receiving an email does not prove criminal knowledge, critics argue it demonstrates how many opportunities existed for someone to intervene before the situation escalated into murder. There is one last strange footnote to all of this. After the raid, David broke his lease and cleared out of that Hollywood Hills home, the same house where prosecutors say Celeste spent time before she died, and where investigators searched the garage. Crews were photographed hauling everything out, and then, earlier this year, right around the time he was finally arrested, the house quietly went back up for rent. A fully furnished Hollywood Hills home with a private pool around 4,000 square feet, listed at just under $24,000 a month, and marketed as a peaceful luxury escape. Whoever signs that lease next probably has no idea what's alleged to have happened in that garage. Ultimately, this case with David seems pretty cut and dry when all the details are laid out. David had exhibited psychopathic tendencies and a fascination with gore even at a young age, and clearly had issues for his entire life. He somehow got away with allegedly year-old, all while being at the height of his fame. It almost seems that when he allegedly murdered Celeste, he wanted to be caught. As Tony Soprano calls it, he got cowboyitis.
People do that shit, they want to get caught.
Oh, I want to get caught.
Yeah, you want to get caught. I seen it before. That's fucking cowboyitis.
or wanting to be seen as tough, or however you want to say it, by other people. He seemingly left clues like the Riddler throughout his music videos, and the fact he barely even disposed of the evidence that he allegedly left behind is proof that not only was he insane, but he was stupid too. David has officially been charged with first-degree murder with special circumstances, including lying in wait, murder committed for financial gain, and murder of a witness to an investigation. He was also charged with lewd sex acts with a person under 4 years old, and the mutilation of a human body. Since being charged, he has pleaded not guilty, and is being represented by a Hollywood legal powerhouse, Blair Burke, the same attorney that Harvey Weinstein hired back in 2017. The case isn't over yet, but if I were a betting man, I would guess that he will most likely be spending the rest of his life in jail. He might even be facing the death penalty, although that is a slim chance. At the end of the day, even if prosecutors took a slightly long time to gather all the evidence, it was for a good reason, and they made as airtight of a case as possible to try and ensure that he won't be going anywhere anytime soon.
Bro, this came from LA, and I don't care. YouTube, you can ban me, but yo, David needs to get packed up. He needs to face the death penalty. I said it. I don't care. Peace out, stay late.